your idea of how to run a newspaper?
I don't know how to run a newspaper, Mr. Fetch. I just try everything I can think.
You realized you were talking to a journalist.
This is 2 J's in a Pod. I'm Mary Ellen Murphy with WGHN Radio.
And I'm Sarah Leach with Ottawa News Network.
Go ahead. Say your name.
It's episode 9. We're introducing gimmicks now.
Jesse Bruce gave this to me, my co-worker at WGHN Radio. Okay, hey. Did you know that Ottawa County has an unofficial Doge page?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Ottawa County Doge.
So,
and it's not an official page, it's an unofficial page.
Are they efficient?
I'll tell you, there's somebody that must have a lot of time on their hands to do all this kind of stuff.
Well, I can tell that somebody has a lot of time on their hands because there's yet another newspaper that's popped up in Holland.
What?
It's called the Hollander.
Is it a real newspaper or a fake one?
No. Well, I mean, it kind of depends on how you define that.
Okay.
It was created by Joe Moss and Michigan Impact.
All right, can I Google that? You don't mind if I Google that?
Yeah, no, go for it.
All right. I'm supposed to be looking at her all the time because that's what you do in a podcast.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it was sent to me about a week ago, and I did a little bit of research, and the P.O. box for... and it's fun, it's hilarious because if you go to it, there's yellow and blue colors on some of the web pages, and I thought, oh, it's so nice of them to support Ukraine.
Okay, here's what it says. Okay, wait. It says progress in slow motion. Holland's big plans face delays, dollars, and red tape. Okay, and then you scroll down, and there's article. Oh, there's an article by Jerry McCaleb.
Oh yes, former mayor of Grand Haven. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's other articles by people by the name of the Hollander. They don't use their names, so I don't know what that's all about.
Yep, but there's individuals there who have either signed the pledge of Ottawa Impact or are featured on social media posing with Joe Moss or Sylvia Rhodey. So these are all, definitely byline types.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And their whole thing is they're embracing the heritage of West Michigan and not apologizing for it, which I thought was a really interesting flex in 2025. But here we are.
You want it to be 1955. You go right ahead in your little cul-de-sac, you do that.
It's like that movie Pleasantville, with Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon. We all get sucked into the TV, and it's all just like in black and white. But
that's what it feels like.
But you can't keep things black and white. There's additional colors that always come out quite literally. So it's just the way of the world. This.
Because I took the long way home yesterday, which would be Lake Michigan Drive.
Yeah.
And, I lived in Ravenna. I love farming. I love all that. And there were tractors out. There were people in the field. There was stuff moving, you know?
Yeah.
And there were no political signs, which was awesome.
I know. It's a great time.
Oh, it was so awesome.
In an off year.
And all I kept thinking about was, how nice it was and how relaxed I was. And I went by GVSU, and I see they have a story here on the Hollander about GVSU, investigation for DEI practices, discrimination. The Ottawa Impact Commissioners, they love GVSU when it lines up with their ideology.
Well, and I got a little bit of a mini scoop. I mean, this has been out on the socials for a little while.
Okay.
There was a I don't know how to frame this, a retro trans person who converted and then unconverted.
Yeah, and she was brought there by the Charlie Kirk Foundation, Turning Point.
Right, Turning Point, right.
Yeah.
So then there was a vigil from the progressive contingent to say that this is not a good message to send to people.
Okay.
And so Joe Moss and Sylvia Rhodey showed up.
Yes,
and they
did.
were kind of, intermingling with the people in the crowd that were for the pro-trans community. Joe Moss had a concealed carry weapon on his person.
Of course.
And it's been told to me, and again, I can't confirm this, so don't, nobody come at me, but I believe that campus security was alerted and they didn't do anything about it, and that is against their policies.
I was going to say, yeah.
You can't be carrying a gun on public universities,
I didn't think so.
It's not okay.
Yeah. It's interesting that they will show up for something like that, but then they mock teaching college students about safe practices and preventing pregnancy, because in their world, come
we're
on.
Just here to
it's
populate
1955. I mean, come on. I hate to break it to you guys, but college kids have relations.
Well, it's interesting because I had my folks in a couple of weeks ago for my birthday, and they got into this very offshoot conversation about how, there used to be these large families and the population is declining. And, obviously that's factoring into lots of things. School enrollment that we've talked about a couple times. And so my stepdad says, well, before we had a lot of families because people worked the farms. And my aunt and I look at each other and I said, well, the Pope also had a little bit of something to do with that because we were instructed to just have as many people as possible. Yeah. And those poor women are just, shooting kids out, left and right. Their uteruses are dropping out of their bodies at a certain point. Yep. Thankfully, we don't live in those times anymore.
Well, and, my best friend was the youngest of 11. Okay. They had 2 dinner times. Hear me out.
Sets.
The younger ones ate first because they ate less. Then the older ones ate second. And I remember one time she invited me over for dinner. And her dad goes, "What the hell are you doing here? I can't afford to feed you too." I mean, it was just, he worked for Stroh's. Okay. That was a time when you could buy a house. Yeah. Mom could stay home. Yep. You could have a car. If you were a teenager, you could work a job at McDonald's and you could buy yourself a VW. Those times don't exist anymore.
Well, and my grandmother, God bless her soul, she tried she was a Catholic. She was down for the cause.
Sure.
She tried to have as many kids as possible.
Sure.
Only worked out to 3, but that doesn't include like the 4 miscarriages that she had.
And what her body went through with that.
Exactly. And it devastated her. It really did.
Not just physically what your body goes through, but emotionally and mentally and all of it. And then back then you didn't even talk about that kind of stuff.
I know.
You just didn't.
I didn't find out about any of that until I was in my 30s.
And then if you didn't have kids back then, I had an aunt Ann.
Yeah, then you got the scarlet letter.
Well, it was like, well,
people started to talk.
She doesn't like children.
Right. Or maybe she doesn't like men. God
there
forbid.
Was that.
God
there
forbid.
Was
God forbid. Yeah.
Everybody. Yeah. I had it. Okay. One of these days, I'm going to share a story. We're going to share stories. We'll just share stories on a podcast.
Well, we should. People who don't either want children or like children are the worst candidates to have children.
Yeah,
I mean, because then you're not having kids that are brought up in the way that you whoever you are, whatever you ascribe to in terms of your life teachings or religion or whatever philosophy, they're not going to be raised the way that you want them to be raised anyway, right. And they're going to be all of those people that you already take issue with. So why would you push the point? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and there are universities that line up with that with a certain type of ideology, and Hillsdale College is one of them.
Oh gosh,
I looked at Hillsdale College.
Do you know that Pat Sajak is affiliated with Hillsdale?
Yes,
I did not know that until like 8 years ago, and it blew my mind. Yeah. I have been watching Wheel of Fortune. My grandmother watched it along with Murder, She Wrote, and Jeopardy every night.
Right.
But I was like, I feel like my life is a lie. It rocked my world because you're just looking at this game show host and you're not thinking about these hardline ideologies. And I thought, wow, this is wild.
But I mean, I understand. I have lots of conservative friends. Yeah. I have lots of conservative friends in relatives. And it's just, if you don't line up with this certain way of thinking, you're not even considered a Republican anymore.
Yeah.
And my question is, who decided this in Ottawa County? Who made these rules?
Well, I think, it's social media. I think it's, really the age of the internet has gotten us into a place where we can have a conversation at somebody, but not with somebody. We don't have to look at the whites of their eyes while we low-key insult them or high-key insult them. I mean, we can call them names. We can label them in boxes. We can even degrade them, and we never have to suffer the consequences because we're not sitting in the room. We don't feel that shame when we do it. It's just a quick tweet, and then you put your phone down and you walk away, and they're not a human to you. They're just another computer on the other end of the line.
You're right. Wow. Okay. So there's a new news outlet, the Hollander. Tomorrow, the Ottawa County Democratic Party, they are hosting a town hall. This is interesting. Yes. You have details on this.
It got more interesting. I know that last week I was talking about, maybe it's great that we're doing this, but maybe we might think about more. Well, let me tell you, the progressives are coming with more. They were able to secure U.S. Rep. Haley Stevens, who is coming in from another district in order to address 4th District Congressman Bill Huizenga's constituents. I cannot wait for this to go down.
Wow.
I cannot wait to see what the reaction is, because I would be hot if I was a representative and somebody else from somewhere else addressed my constituents. Even though he won't. Arguably, he has been invited, and it's been demanded of him to have in town, these town hall events in person. He's done the telephone, thing, but it's that's taken it up a notch.
And he used to have an office in this building here at 1 South Harbor.
I did not realize that.
And it was 2 doors down.
I only know about the Holland one. Okay.
It was 2 doors down from our building, and that office sat empty day after day for years.
Yeah.
And the rent here is not cheap.
Sure.
And so, I thought that maybe Scholten was going to take that office, and she decided not to. Her people will go to the library, or she's not, the rent's high. And if you're not going to be there all the time and you don't have people to staff it.
Right.
This is really something. In the past, I had a really good relationship when I worked in Holland with Congressman Huizenga. He would come on the air, and I would challenge him on things, and he liked that because it gave him an opportunity to state why he believed what he believed.
Sure.
But I feel like the last time I talked to him was about a week after January 6th.
Oh, that's later than me. I think that I met him in person a couple times.
Okay.
The last time was probably when he was campaigning in 2016.
Okay.
Because back then, politics were different.
Yeah.
And every 2 years when the reps would campaign, Fred Upton also did the same thing. They would make the circuit, and they would meet with all of the different newspapers like Detroit Free Press, The News, the Lansing State Journal, and then they would come to whatever the hometown media outlets were. And so the Sentinel was on that route for them at that time. And he sat there and we talked about a lot of different issues. And I will tell you that he cried in front of me.
Did he really?
He did. He was talking about veterans and veterans benefits.
I could believe that.
And
I can believe that.
And I felt it. I felt
you
like
felt it. He wasn't faking it.
It was genuine.
Yeah.
It was genuine.
I could see that from
But
Bill.
it's really, it's strange to me to reconcile what that person was to what is happening now, where there's this person who won't come to do in-town, meetings with constituents. That's weird to me.
Yeah.
But it avoids the issue, and if they don't have an effective answer to angry constituents, then I guess avoidance is the next best option. I don't know.
I had something in my head, and I just lost my train of thought.
I live in that space.
Yeah, my wheels are spinning. Ottawa County GOP. I want to go back to that. You see who? You read the names from the Ottawa County GOP who?
Oh, the executive committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They keep
There's
putting
so
out
many.
They keep putting out resolutions. Did you see that? They keep. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But which I think they're aligning with the national stance. Am
Sure.
I? Okay. That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and also they're punishing anybody who is not aligned with OI locally right now. I mean, they censured all of the Republicans who are not affiliated with Ottawa Impact after certain decisions were made recently. So,
right.
It's sort of part and parcel at this. I mean, by the time you get to your 6th censure for, let's say, Jacob Bonema, I mean, he's probably the most censured local politician in Ottawa County history.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Do you just start like putting chicken scratches on the wall and just saying, hey, casual Tuesday? Like, what are we doing?
You're right.
At a certain point, it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. So we should talk about how are your kids doing? And we know that Mary A. White is all that. We talked about that last week.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a done deal.
Right. I
know that flu is going around at the schools and whatnot. Are you hearing that as well?
Yes.
Coughing. And
I have a sick child in the studio with us right now. She's nodding her head, yes.
I love that when people do that on the radio and they nod their heads.
Yeah, this is a talkie, sweetie.
What a doll. I love it. Yeah, my kids used to do that when I would bring them in. I'd ask them a question and they'd change. So what else is going on in your life? What else are you working on and covering?
Well, I'm covering the town hall tomorrow, but
do you think it's going to be standing room only?
I think that this one's going to be pretty popular.
Okay.
I know that there's...
Next week, Rep. Scholten hosting a in-person town hall in Grand Rapids on Thursday and then in Grand Haven from noon to 1 on Friday. You have to RSVP We don't know where they're at yet. We don't know where they're at yet.
Well, the Holland one is at Midtown Center.
Right.
That I do know. To clarify,
Okay.
Rep. Scholten represents the northern top third of Ottawa County.
Got it.
And then Huizenga represents like the lower 2/3 of
Okay.
Ottawa County. And that is a result of redistricting that just happened. So that's...
Got it.
It's a little bit of an adjustment when you're covering both from a countywide perspective, but you're represented differently from historical practice.
Did you see what happened with Grand Rapids schools today?
No.
They hang on.
Are they redistricting too?
No, they staged. They're concerned about the Department of Education cuts, so they staged a walk-in at the high school, students and parents.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Although
at Union High,
just based off of my own personal experience, that doesn't necessarily resonate.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and I'll bring up that I did meet with somebody from the Grand Haven School Board. I won't out them because I feel like that would be, maybe a little bit too personal. But
Sure.
This person approached me after listening to the last episode of our podcast and just wanted to clarify kind of where they were coming from, how the meeting went, what their perspective was. I will say that I tried to emphasize the fact that there seems to be a disconnect between being a representative official in public office and really being connected to the constituency that you're representing.
Okay.
They sort of get wrapped up in process and procedure and the way that things should be and the way that things should unfold and the way that systems and structures are put into place. And they get kind of fixated on the business aspect of that. And I think that sometimes they sort of lose that touch with why we voted them in the first place, is that we felt like they would reflect, what our values are, what our preferences are.
Okay.
That they had that connection to us. And I feel like there's some of that gets kind of lost in translation when you actually convert from a normal everyday layperson into an elected official. You almost feel like you have to become like this. I like to call it, I would always call myself HR Sarah when I was working for Legacy Media still, and I had to have like a very formal business meeting, and especially if it was something that had to do with an employee who had a problem, or I was trying to resolve a problem between two employees. I had to become HR Sarah, where you have to be very careful about what you say, how you say it, the tone that you convey. And I feel like, I did that because there were liability issues in those particular conversations that I was having, where the company had to really kind of represent in a very specific way so that everyone was equally represented.
Right.
I feel like sometimes public officials get into that zone where then you completely kind of lose that empathetic leadership quality that everyone kind of wants. It's like, you will still hear us and see us and acknowledge us, but then sort of incorporate that into the business of being an elected official. I feel like I made some headway. And
Okay.
I hope I made some headway, because honestly, we are facing additional long-term problems.
Sure.
We just got out of a major crisis decision regarding our local elementary schools, but that doesn't negate the fact that we've got, half a dozen buildings that are like older than, Methuselah, and we need to come up with some sort of solution, because with declining enrollment, how do you leverage a bond millage to build a new elementary school
Right.
when you have a declining population at the same
Right.
time? That's a hard sell.
Sure is.
It's like right in light of what happened with this whole redistricting thing that did not get rolled out well, and really alienated and disenfranchised a lot of voters. Let's just call them, they're not just parents, they're voters.
You're right. You need to
Let's
think
not
of it.
forget that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to forget that, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So we really need to be kind of like on our A game and have a long-term plan, because take a couple of deep breaths, but then get right back into the fray, because you've got a lot more challenging conversations and decisions to make.
Yeah. And, I don't want to assume, but I would imagine many of school board members, they have jobs during the day. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
It's hard. You have to set time out to do things. They probably look at things on the weekend, and it's busy.
I know.
It's busy.
Yeah.
But if you're running for something like that, you have to know what you're walking into.
Well, yeah, and this person told me, well, I don't. Why don't you live stream your meetings? Well, there might be an issue with the union, or there might be an issue here or there. And I said, but they're public meetings. I could walk in and take a picture of anybody that I wanted to,
Right.
and also record anything that I wanted to because it's a public meeting. Well, no, it's a public meeting. The end. Stop overthinking every single thing.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a simple decision. Sometimes it's just a simple thing. Don't get caught up in all this minutia,
Right.
And so that you're not making decisions that really can promote transparency in the district, because we need it now more than ever.
Yeah.
Paranoia. I don't know if anybody in Ottawa County, agrees with me here, but paranoia in Ottawa County is at an all-time high. I mean, after the last 2 years, it doesn't matter which political, part of the
Right.
spectrum that you're coming from, you're suspicious of everybody who's in power right now. That's the reality of the situation. So don't make unnecessary mistakes.
I think that's why I took the long way home yesterday. I'm serious. I just was kind of like, oh man, it was a busy news day. I had a lot of hyper local stories, and I was chopping things up, editing, and I couldn't, and I just was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I do want to say this to our audience, though. When you share news stories on social media, if I understand that it's easy to share something from a legacy media site, but if you could maybe share from Ottawa News Network, share from WGHN. I know it's a big deal if TV 13 comes to town and they cover something that Grand Haven is doing. I get it, okay?
Right.
But if they've got the story, more than likely I've got it.
Right.
Or Sarah has
Right.
it. And stop sharing Newsbreak articles. If you don't have the app, you can't read the articles.
Also, Newsbreak literally grifts off of the companies that have paywalls and puts their content out for free.
Just
and
stop.
It's kind of problematic. So there might be some litigation in the future regarding
I'm just
that.
saying, if you want to share articles, maybe try to share your hyper local organizations
Well,
first.
And WGHN and Ottawa News Network are both free.
There you go.
I mean,
Boom,
we don't even care. Like, we don't care because it's not like it's different.
Oh, okay. We should wrap it up with I went to get a newspaper because I wanted a hard copy of my column.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough money to pay for it.
Come on.
All right, hear me out. I have a credit card for emergencies. My debit card was at home, and I've been trying this new thing where I only carry cash so that I don't go thrifting to find more Barbie stuff for my Barbie beach house. I'm trying to really budget. So I only had a little bit of cash on me, like $2. $4 a pop
For a single copy.
of the Tribune.
Like a weekday?
Yeah.
Not a Sunday.
No, it's $4. I just wanted, and I said to the lady at the gas station, I think I got some change in the car. I said, I write for this paper. And she just laughed. She said, you write for this paper and you have to pay for it?
Wow. When I have to pray for the tooth fairy to come and give me money to buy the paper.
We love you, Tribune. We support you.
We do. We know it's not you.